The sidewalk felt like it was spinning beneath Jasmine's feet as she clutched her 3-week-old baby closer to her chest. The world around her blurred into a mess of colors and sounds while her legs gave out completely. She hit the concrete hard, her knees scraping against the rough surface as she desperately tried to shield her crying infant from the fall. "Please," she whispered to the stream of people walking past her on the busy downtown street. "Please, someone help me." But everyone kept walking. Business people in expensive suits stepped around her like she was just another piece of trash on the sidewalk. A woman in high heels actually rolled her eyes and muttered something about "these people" under her breath. Jasmine's vision started to go dark around the edges as her baby's cries grew louder. She hadn't eaten a real meal in 3 days. The last of her money had gone to baby formula and diapers 2 days ago. Her tiny apartment had been taken away when she couldn't pay rent after losing her job at the grocery store. They said being pregnant made her unreliable, even though she had worked there for 2 years without missing a single day. Now here she was, 22 years old with a newborn baby, sitting on cold concrete while hundreds of people pretended not to see her. Her baby's father had disappeared the moment she told him she was pregnant. Her mother had passed away when she was 18, and she had no other family to turn to. The baby's cries were getting weaker now, which scared Jasmine more than anything. She tried to stand up again, but her legs wouldn't hold her weight. Everything hurt. Her body felt like it was shutting down piece by piece. "Someone please help us," she said louder, but her voice cracked and came out as barely a whisper. A group of teenagers walked by, laughing and taking selfies. One of them pointed at her and said something to his friends that made them all laugh harder. Jasmine wanted to disappear. She wanted to protect her baby from this cruel world that seemed to have no place for them. She closed her eyes and held her baby tight, feeling completely defeated. Maybe this was it. Maybe she had tried as hard as she could and it just wasn't enough. The baby had stopped crying and was making small whimpering sounds that broke Jasmine's heart into a million pieces. Miss, are you okay?" Jasmine opened her eyes to see expensive black shoes standing in front of her. She looked up slowly and saw a tall man in a dark suit looking down at her with genuine concern in his brown eyes. He was probably in his 30s with short black hair and the kind of confident posture that came from success. "I'm fine," she lied because that's what she always said. She tried to stand up again but stumbled. "No, you're not fine," the man said gently. He knelt down beside her, not caring that his expensive suit would get dirty on the sidewalk. "When's the last time you ate something?" Jasmine looked at him suspiciously. In her experience, when strangers were nice to you, they usually wanted something in return. But his eyes seemed different. They reminded her of her mother's eyes, warm and caring without judgment. "I don't need charity," she said, even though they both knew that wasn't true. "This isn't charity," he said softly. "This is one human being helping another. What's your baby's name?" "Faith," Jasmine whispered, looking down at her daughter who had fallen asleep despite everything. "That's a beautiful name." "I'm Ryan. And I think you and Faith need to get somewhere safe and warm right now." Jasmine wanted to argue, wanted to prove she could take care of herself and her baby. But Faith made a small sound in her sleep that reminded Jasmine this wasn't just about her pride anymore. This was about keeping her daughter alive. "I don't have anywhere to go," she admitted, tears starting to fall down her cheeks. Ryan stood up and carefully helped Jasmine to her feet, making sure she had a secure hold on Faith. "Well, let's start with getting you something to eat and making sure you and Faith are healthy. Then we'll figure out the rest." As Ryan gently guided her toward his car, Jasmine couldn't help but wonder why this stranger cared when everyone else had just walked past. She had learned not to trust easily, but something about Ryan felt different. Maybe it was the way he looked at Faith with such gentleness, or how he didn't make Jasmine feel ashamed for needing help. For the first time in weeks, Jasmine felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe things could get better. Maybe she and Faith wouldn't have to face this alone after all. The hospital emergency room was bright and sterile, nothing like the dark street where Jasmine had collapsed just an hour ago. She sat on the examination table holding Faith while a kind nurse checked her blood pressure for the 3rd time. "Your blood pressure is very low, honey," the nurse said with concern. "When did you last have a full meal?" Jasmine felt embarrassed to answer. She looked over at Ryan, who was sitting quietly in the corner chair. He had insisted on staying with her, even filling out paperwork and handling the insurance questions when she couldn't focus. "Maybe 3 days ago," she whispered. The nurse shook her head sadly. "You're severely dehydrated and malnourished. We need to get some fluids and nutrients into you right away. And we need to make sure your baby is getting enough nutrition too." Dr. Williams came in a few minutes later, a middle-aged woman with gray hair and gentle hands. She examined both Jasmine and Faith thoroughly while asking careful questions about their living situation and health history. The good news is that Faith appears healthy, Dr. Williams said. But Jasmine, your body is running on empty. You've been pushing yourself far beyond what's safe, especially as a new mother who's breastfeeding. I was doing the best I could, Jasmine said defensively. I know you were, the doctor said kindly. But now we need to focus on getting you both healthy and stable. I'm going to recommend you stay overnight for observation and for fluids. Jasmine's heart sank. I can't afford to stay overnight. I don't have insurance that covers. Actually, the bill has been taken care of, Ryan said quietly from his corner. Jasmine turned to stare at him. What? No, I can't let you do that. I barely know you. Ryan stood up and walked closer. Jasmine, you collapsed on the street holding your baby. Right now, the most important thing is making sure you're both okay. We can worry about everything else later. But why would you help us? You don't even know us. Ryan was quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the city lights. Let's just say I know what it's like to feel like the world has given up on you. And I know how it feels when someone finally stops to help. The nurse brought in a comfortable reclining chair that converted into a bed, along with a small bassinet for Faith. This way you can stay close to your baby while you recover, she explained. As the 4 drips slowly delivered much-needed fluids and nutrients into Jasmine's system, she felt her strength beginning to return bit by bit. Faith slept peacefully in the bassinet, finally looking relaxed instead of stressed. Ryan had gone to get coffee but returned with a bag of baby supplies, diapers, formula, tiny pajamas, and a soft pink blanket. The gift shop was about to close, he explained when he saw Jasmine's surprised expression. You've already done too much, Jasmine said, but she was looking at the baby clothes with obvious gratitude. I haven't done nearly enough, Ryan replied. Tell me about Faith's father. Jasmine's face hardened. There's nothing to tell. He made it clear he wanted nothing to do with us. I'm sorry. That must have been incredibly difficult, especially being pregnant and alone. I wasn't completely alone. I had my job at the grocery store. I thought I could make it work. Jasmine's voice got quieter. But then they said I was calling in sick too much during my pregnancy, even though I was only missing work when I had to go to doctor appointments. They fired me when I was 7 months along. Ryan's jaw tightened with anger. That's illegal. You could have fought that. With what money? What lawyer was going to help someone like me? Jasmine shifted Faith to her other arm. Besides, I was focused on preparing for Faith's arrival. I thought I'd find another job after she was born. But it's been harder than you expected. Everything's been harder than I expected. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. I love her so much, Ryan. I would do anything for her. But I feel like I'm failing her every single day. What kind of mother can't even provide a safe place for her baby to sleep? Ryan moved his chair closer to her bedside. You're not failing her, Jasmine. You're 22 years old, alone, and you've been trying to take care of a newborn with no support system. The fact that you've made it this far shows how strong you are. I don't feel strong. I feel scared and tired and completely lost. That's normal. Being a parent is terrifying even when you have all the resources in the world. But Jasmine, look at Faith. Look how peaceful she is right now. She feels safe because she's with you. That's not something money can buy. Jasmine looked down at her sleeping daughter and felt a mixture of love and overwhelming responsibility. I just want to give her a good life. I want her to have opportunities one never had. She will, Ryan said with conviction. We'll make sure of it. Jasmine looked at him curiously. Why do you keep saying we? You're going to go back to your life tomorrow and we'll go back to ours. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. What if you didn't have to go back to sleeping in shelters and wondering where your next meal is coming from? What do you mean? I mean, what if I told you I have a guest house that's been sitting empty for 2 years? What if I told you that you and Faith could stay there while you get back on your feet? Jasmine stared at him. I can't accept that. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. Take some time to make sure Faith is safe and healthy. Look for work without worrying about where you're going to sleep tonight. Let me help you help yourself. Why would you do that for strangers? Ryan looked out the window again. Because 5 years ago I was sleeping in my car and eating 1 meal a day while I tried to build my business. And because someone helped me when I needed it most. Sometimes we're meant to pay kindness forward instead of paying it back. Jasmine felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time since Faith was born, she wasn't facing everything alone. Maybe, just maybe, she could accept help without losing her dignity. Just temporarily, she said quietly. Until I can find a job and save up for an apartment. Ryan smiled for the first time since she'd met him. Just temporarily. The guest house behind Ryan's main property was more beautiful than any place Jasmine had ever lived. It had a full kitchen, a cozy living room with soft furniture, and a bedroom with windows that let in the morning sunshine. There was even a small nursery that Ryan said had been set up by the previous owners. "This is too much," Jasmine said as she walked through the space with Faith in her arms. "This is like a dream house." Ryan was carrying the few bags of clothes and supplies they had picked up on the way. "It's been empty for 2 years. I'm happy someone is finally getting use out of it. But what will people think? Your neighbors, your friends? They'll think I'm helping someone who needs help. And if they have a problem with that, they're not really my friends." Ryan set down the bags and opened the refrigerator, which was fully stocked with food. "I had my housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, pick up some groceries. She's excited to meet you and Faith." Jasmine felt overwhelmed by the generosity. "Ryan, I can't afford to pay you rent right now, but I promise. We're not talking about rent. We're talking about you having a safe place to recover and take care of Faith while you figure out your next steps." Ryan pulled out a chair at the small dining table. "Sit down. You still need to be taking it easy." As Jasmine sat down with Faith, she looked around the beautiful space and felt tears of gratitude threatening to fall. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream." "It's not a dream. This is your home for as long as you need it to be." Faith started to fuss, and Jasmine realized it was time for her feeding. She felt embarrassed about breastfeeding in front of Ryan, but he seemed to understand. "I'll give you some privacy," he said, heading toward the door. "I'll be back in an hour to see if you need anything." After he left, Jasmine settled into the comfortable rocking chair by the window to feed Faith. The baby latched on eagerly, and for the first time in weeks, Jasmine felt relaxed during feeding time instead of stressed about when and where the next meal would come from. The quiet of the guest house was almost strange after weeks of noisy shelters and busy streets. Faith seemed to sense the peace too, eating calmly and then falling into a deep, restful sleep. Jasmine placed Faith in the beautiful white crib and took a hot shower, her first real shower in over a week. She stood under the warm water for a long time, letting it wash away not just the dirt and exhaustion but some of her fear and desperation too. When Ryan returned an hour later, he found Jasmine sitting at the table with a cup of tea, looking more rested than he had seen her yet. "How are you settling in?" he asked. "I don't know how to thank you," Jasmine said simply. "This morning I thought Faith and I were going to end up sleeping outside. Now we're in a place more beautiful than anywhere I've ever lived." Ryan sat down across from her. "You don't need to thank me. Just focus on taking care of yourself and Faith." "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. What do you do for work?" "I mean, this property, helping us with the hospital bills, stocking the fridge, this must cost a lot of money." Ryan seemed to consider how much to share. "I own a technology company. We develop software for small businesses to help them manage their operations more efficiently." "Did you always want to work in technology?" "Not really. I wanted to be a teacher, actually. But life took me in a different direction." Ryan looked thoughtful. "What about you? What did you study in school?" "I was studying nursing before I got pregnant. I had to drop out when I couldn't afford tuition anymore." Jasmine's voice got sad. "I always wanted to help people, especially kids. I thought maybe I could work in a children's hospital someday." "That's a beautiful dream. And it's not too late to make it happen." Jasmine shook her head. "I can't afford to go back to school. Not with Faith to take care of. There are programs that help single mothers return to school. Scholarships, grants, flexible class schedules. Maybe someday." Jasmine didn't want to talk about impossible dreams when she was still trying to figure out how to survive day by day. They heard Faith making small sounds from the bedroom, the contented noises babies make when they're waking up happy instead of crying from hunger or discomfort. "She sounds different already," Ryan observed. "More peaceful." "She slept for 3 hours straight," Jasmine said with amazement. "That's the longest she's slept since she was born. I think she feels safe here." Ryan smiled. "Good. That was the goal." As the evening went on, Ryan helped Jasmine figure out how everything worked in the guest house: the washer and dryer, the security system, the thermostat. He showed her where the main house was and gave her his phone number in case she needed anything during the night. "I don't want to bother you," Jasmine said. "You've already done so much." "Jasmine, taking care of a newborn is a 24-hour job. If you need help, call me. I mean it." After Ryan left, Jasmine walked through the guest house again, still hardly believing it was real. She made herself a simple dinner from the groceries in the fridge, then sat in the living room with Faith while the baby had some awake time. "Look around, Faith," she whispered to her daughter. We're going to be okay here. We're safe. For the first time since Faith was born, Jasmine felt like she could breathe. She didn't know what the future would bring, but tonight she wasn't worried about where they would sleep or whether Faith would be warm enough. As she got ready for bed, Jasmine found herself thinking about Ryan's kindness. She had been so focused on survival that she had forgotten there were still good people in the world. People who helped without expecting anything in return. She fell asleep that night to the sound of Faith breathing peacefully in the crib beside her, both of them finally safe and warm. 3 days into their stay at the guest house, Jasmine woke up to the sound of someone moving around in the kitchen. She quickly picked up Faith and walked carefully toward the noise, unsure whether to be scared or curious. "Good morning," Ryan said, looking up from where he was making coffee. "I hope you don't mind. I wanted to check on you both and thought I'd make breakfast." Jasmine realized she was still in her pajamas, a simple t-shirt and shorts that Ryan had bought for her along with other clothes. She felt self-conscious, but Faith was starting to fuss with hunger. "You don't need to cook for us too," she said, settling into the rocking chair to feed Faith. "I like to cook. It relaxes me." Ryan continued scrambling eggs while bacon sizzled in another pan. "Besides, when's the last time someone cooked for you?" Jasmine had to think about it. "My mom used to make me breakfast before school. But that was 4 years ago." "Well then you're overdue." As Faith ate, Jasmine watched Ryan move comfortably around the kitchen. He was dressed more casually than when she first met him, jeans and a simple blue shirt instead of the expensive suit. It made him seem more approachable, less like the wealthy businessman who had rescued her and more like a normal person. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said. "Sure. Do you live alone in that big house?" Ryan nodded, focusing on flipping the bacon. "Just me. Doesn't it get lonely?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes. But I'm used to it." "What about family? Friends?" "I have business associates. People I work with. But not many close friends, no." Ryan plated the food and brought it over to the table. "What about you? Besides your mom, did you have family?" "Not really. My mom raised me by herself. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, but she was always there when I needed her." Jasmine's voice got soft. She would have loved Faith so much. "I'm sure she would have." "What was she like?" Jasmine smiled as Faith finished eating and started to fall asleep again. "She was strong. Really strong. But also gentle and funny. She used to sing while she cooked dinner, even after working all day. She made everything feel like it would be okay even when it wasn't." "She sounds wonderful." "She was. Cancer took her too fast. One day she was fine, 6 months later she was gone." Jasmine placed Faith back in her portable bassinet and sat down to eat. "I think she would have liked you." "Why do you say that?" "She always said you could tell a lot about a person by how they treat people who can't do anything for them in return. You've been nothing but kind to us, and we're complete strangers who have nothing to offer you." Ryan looked uncomfortable with the praise. "Anyone would have helped." "No, they wouldn't have. I sat on that sidewalk for almost an hour before you stopped. Hundreds of people walked past you. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, with Faith sleeping peacefully between them." Jasmine realized it was the first time she had eaten a hot breakfast since before Faith was born. "This is delicious," she said. "Where did you learn to cook?" "Trial and error mostly. When I was starting my business I was working such long hours that takeout got expensive. I had to learn to make simple meals that didn't take much time." "What was it like starting your own business?" Ryan leaned back in his chair. "Terrifying. Exciting. Exhausting. I worked 18-hour days for 3 years straight. There were nights I slept in my office because I couldn't afford gas to drive home. But you made it work." "Eventually. But it took longer than I thought it would and cost more than I expected, not just money but personally too." "What do you mean?" Ryan looked out the window. "I was so focused on building something successful that I forgot to build relationships. By the time I realized what I had sacrificed, it felt too late to go back and fix it." Jasmine studied his face. "It's never too late." "Maybe. But it's hard to trust people when you have money. You never know if they like you for you or for what you can provide." "Is that why you're helping us? Because you know we're not after your money?" Ryan laughed. "Partly maybe. But mostly because you remind me of someone I used to know." "Who?" "My mom. She was young and alone when she had me. My father left when he found out she was pregnant. She did everything she could to take care of me, but it was never easy." "What happened to her?" "She got sick when I was in college. By the time I could afford to really help her, it was too late." Ryan's voice got quiet. "I always regretted not being able to give her the life she deserved." Jasmine reached across the table and touched his hand. I'm sure she was proud of you. I hope so. She never got to see the business succeed or know that her sacrifice meant something. Faith started to stir, making small sounds that meant she would wake up soon. Ryan looked at the baby with a gentle expression. She's beautiful, Jasmine. Really beautiful. Thank you. She's the best thing I've ever done. I can tell. The way you look at her, the way you hold her, it's the same way my mom used to look at me. As Faith woke up and started to smile her tiny baby smiles, Ryan made funny faces at her that made her eyes get wide with interest. I think she likes you, Jasmine said. I hope so. I don't have much experience with babies. You're a natural. Look, she's trying to focus on your face. They spent the next hour taking turns holding Faith and talking about small things, favorite foods, movies they enjoyed, places they had never been but wanted to visit. It felt normal and comfortable in a way that surprised them both. When Ryan finally left to go to work, Jasmine realized she was looking forward to seeing him again. Not because she needed his help, but because she enjoyed his company. It had been so long since she had a real conversation with another adult, especially one who seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. As she settled Faith down for a nap, Jasmine admitted to herself that Ryan was becoming more than just the stranger who had helped them. He was becoming a friend. A week passed quietly at the guest house. Jasmine developed a routine of caring for Faith, taking walks around the neighborhood, and having coffee with Ryan in the mornings when he stopped by before work. She felt stronger physically and emotionally than she had in months. But on Wednesday morning, Ryan didn't come by for their usual coffee. Jasmine found herself disappointed and worried. Had she said something wrong? Was he getting tired of having them around? She spent the day trying to distract herself with baby care and household tasks, but by evening she was genuinely concerned. When she saw lights on in the main house that night, she decided to check on him. Ryan answered the door looking exhausted and stressed. His usually neat hair was messy and his shirt was wrinkled like he had been running his hands through it. Jasmine, is everything okay? Is Faith all right? We're fine. I was worried about you. You didn't come by this morning. Ryan rubbed his face. I'm sorry. I should have called. I've been dealing with some business problems. Do you want to talk about it? You don't want to hear about my work drama. Actually, I do. You've been listening to my problems for a week. Maybe I can return the favor. Ryan hesitated, then opened the door wider. Come in. But I have to warn you, I'm not very good company right now. The main house was beautiful but felt cold and empty despite the expensive furniture and artwork. Ryan led her to the kitchen where he poured himself a glass of water and offered her one. One of my biggest clients is threatening to cancel their contract, he said finally. They're saying our software has bugs that are costing them money. Do you think that's true? I don't know. Maybe. My development team says the problems are on their end, but the client is furious and talking about suing us. How bad would it be if you lost them? Ryan leaned against the counter. Bad. They represent about 30% of our revenue. If they leave and spread negative word about us, it could destroy everything I've built. Jasmine could see the real fear in his eyes. Have you eaten today? What? Food. Have you eaten anything today? Ryan looked confused by the change of subject. I don't know. Maybe some coffee this morning. That's what I thought. Jasmine opened his refrigerator and started pulling out ingredients. You can't solve problems when you're running on empty. I learned that the hard way. Jasmine, you don't need to. Yes, I do. You've been taking care of us. Now let me take care of you for once. As Jasmine cooked a simple pasta dish, she listened to Ryan talk about his business fears. How he had poured everything into building the company, how he felt responsible for his employees' jobs, how terrified he was of failure. I grew up with nothing, he said, sitting at the kitchen table while she worked. My mom and I lived in a tiny apartment in the worst part of town. I swore I would never be poor again. But you're not that poor kid anymore. Even if you lost this client, you wouldn't end up homeless. Wouldn't I? Sometimes I feel like I'm one mistake away from losing everything. Jasmine set a plate of food in front of him. Eat. As Ryan ate, some of the tension left his shoulders. This is really good. Where did you learn to cook? My mom taught me. She said cooking was one of the most important life skills because it meant you could always take care of yourself and the people you loved. Smart woman. She was. She also used to say that problems always seem bigger when you're hungry and tired. Ryan took another bite. She was right about that too. Ryan, can I ask you something personal? Sure. When's the last time you took a day off? Like really off? Not working, not thinking about work, just doing something you enjoy. Ryan thought about it. I honestly can't remember. That's not healthy. My mom worked 2 jobs, but she still made time for things that made her happy. She said life was too short to only focus on survival. What kind of things did she do? She loved to garden. We had these tiny flower boxes outside our apartment windows, and she grew the most beautiful flowers you've ever seen. She said they reminded her that beautiful things could grow even in difficult places. Ryan smiled for the first time all day. I'd like to have seen that. She also loved to dance. She would put on music while she cooked dinner and just dance around the kitchen. I was embarrassed by it when I was a teenager, but now I miss it so much. Do you dance? Jasmine laughed. Not like she did. She had this confidence, this joy that I've never been able to copy. Maybe you just haven't found your own version of it yet. After Ryan finished eating, they moved to the living room where he showed Jasmine some photos from when he was starting his business. Pictures of him in tiny office spaces, working with just a couple of employees, looking young and hopeful and determined. You look happy in these pictures, Jasmine observed. I was scared but happy. I believed in what I was building. Do you still believe in it? Ryan was quiet for a long moment. I think so. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about creating something meaningful and started being about not losing what I had. Maybe that's the real problem. Maybe you need to remember why you started. How did you get so wise at 22? Jasmine laughed. I'm not wise. I've just had a lot of practice with problems that seemed impossible to solve. And how do you solve impossible problems? One day at a time. One small step at a time. And sometimes by accepting help from people who care about you. They talked until late into the night, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. When Jasmine finally went back to the guest house, both she and Ryan felt less alone than they had in years. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable rhythm. Ryan would stop by the guest house every morning for coffee before work, and most evenings he would come over for dinner. Jasmine insisted on cooking, saying it was the least she could do, and Ryan brought groceries and helped with Faith whenever she would let him. Slowly, Ryan began to relax around them. He would hold Faith while Jasmine cooked, making funny faces and silly sounds that made the baby smile. He learned how to change diapers and warm bottles, and he was surprisingly good at getting Faith to stop crying when she was fussy. You're a natural at this, Jasmine told him one evening as he rocked Faith to sleep. I never thought I would be. I never really imagined having kids. Why not? Ryan looked down at the sleeping baby in his arms. I guess I was afraid I wouldn't be good at it. My own father wasn't exactly a great example of parenting. Do you ever think about him? Sometimes. I used to imagine what I would say to him if I ever saw him again. But honestly, I think I'm better off without him. Some people aren't meant to be parents. Jasmine watched him gently place Faith in her crib. I think you'd make a wonderful father. Ryan looked surprised. Really? Look how naturally you care for Faith. Look how patient you are with her. You have good instincts. Maybe it's easier because she's not actually mine. There's less pressure. But Jasmine noticed how Ryan's face lit up when Faith smiled at him, how he remembered her feeding schedule without being told, how he worried when she seemed the slightest bit uncomfortable. It didn't look like less pressure to her. It looked like love. One Saturday morning, Ryan arrived at the guest house with a surprise, a stroller and a diaper bag. I thought maybe you and Faith would like to get out of the house today, he said. There's a farmer's market downtown and the weather is perfect. Jasmine felt excited about the idea of going somewhere together, but also nervous. Are you sure? People might think we're what? A family? A couple? I don't want to give people the wrong idea about why I'm staying here. Ryan's expression became serious. Jasmine, I don't care what strangers think. Do you want to go to the farmer's market? Yes, I really do. Then let's go. The farmer's market was busy with families and couples walking around, buying fresh produce and homemade crafts. Ryan pushed the stroller while Jasmine walked beside him, and to anyone watching, they did look like a young family enjoying their Saturday morning. At first, Jasmine felt self-conscious, but as they walked and talked and laughed at Faith's reactions to all the new sights and sounds, she began to relax. Ryan bought her a bouquet of sunflowers and some fresh strawberries, and they sat on a bench to share them while Faith slept in the stroller. This is nice, Jasmine said, eating a particularly sweet strawberry. It is. I haven't done anything like this in years. What do you usually do on weekends? Work mostly. Sometimes I go to business dinners or networking events. But nothing like this. Nothing just for fun. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, wandered over to look at Faith in the stroller. Your baby is so pretty, she told Jasmine. Thank you, Jasmine replied, smiling. What's her name? Faith. The little girl looked at Ryan. Are you the daddy? Ryan looked flustered, but before he could answer, the girl's mother appeared and apologized for her daughter's boldness. It's okay, Ryan said, but Jasmine noticed he didn't correct the assumption. On the way home, they stopped at a park where other families were playing. Ryan spread out a blanket under a tree while Jasmine fed Faith, and they watched children playing on swings and slides. Do you ever wonder what Faith will be like when she's older? Ryan asked. All the time. I hope she'll be confident and strong. I hope she'll know how loved she is. She will. Look how you take care of her, how you put her needs first always. She's going to grow up knowing she's the most important thing in the world to her mother. I want to be able to give her more than just love, though. I want to give her opportunities, education, experiences like this. Jasmine gestured around the park. I want her to have choices I never had. She will have those things. How can you be so sure? Ryan looked at her seriously. Because I'm going to help make sure she does. Something about the way he said it made Jasmine's heart skip. There was a promise in his voice that went beyond temporary charity or friendship. That evening, after they returned to the guest house, Ryan stayed for dinner as usual. But something felt different between them. The easy friendship they had developed was shifting into something deeper and more complicated. As they cleaned up the dishes together, their hands brushed as they reached for the same plate. Instead of moving away quickly like they usually did, they both paused. Ryan looked into Jasmine's eyes and she felt her breath catch. Jasmine, he said softly. I know, she whispered back. They stood there for a moment, both aware that they were crossing a line they had been carefully avoiding. Then Faith made a sound from her crib, breaking the spell. I should check on her, Jasmine said, stepping back. And I should probably get going, Ryan replied, though he made no move to leave. After he left that night, Jasmine lay in bed thinking about the look in his eyes, the way her heart had raced when they almost touched. She was falling for him and that terrified her. She had always been independent, always taken care of herself. The idea of depending on someone emotionally felt as scary as depending on them financially. What if she let herself love him and he decided he was tired of playing house? What if this was just a phase for him, a way to feel good about himself? But as she fell asleep, she couldn't stop thinking about how natural it had felt to walk through the farmer's market with him, how right it seemed when strangers assumed they were a family, how safe and happy she felt when they were all together. 3 days later, the weather forecast predicted a major storm system moving through the area. Ryan showed up at the guest house that morning with supplies: extra batteries, flashlights, non-perishable food, and bottled water. The power might go out, he explained as he stocked the kitchen cabinets. And with Faith, we want to make sure you have everything you need. We'll be fine, Jasmine assured him. I've been through storms before. But this storm turned out to be worse than anyone expected. By afternoon, the wind was howling and rain was coming down so hard it was impossible to see more than a few feet outside the windows. The power went out just after dinner, leaving them in candlelight. I'm staying here tonight, Ryan announced as thunder crashed overhead. I'm not leaving you and Faith alone in this. Jasmine wanted to argue, but the truth was she felt scared and she was grateful for his company. Faith seemed anxious too, fussing more than usual and having trouble sleeping through the noise of the storm. They spent the evening playing cards by candlelight and talking while taking turns walking around with Faith to keep her calm. When the baby finally fell asleep around 10 o'clock, they settled on the couch together, listening to the storm rage outside. This reminds me of when I was little, Jasmine said, pulling a blanket around herself. My mom and I used to pretend that storms were just the sky having big feelings, and we would tell stories to help it feel better. What kind of stories? Happy ones. Stories about sunshine and rainbows and families who loved each other no matter what. A particularly loud crash of thunder made them both jump, and Faith started crying from the bedroom. I'll get her, Ryan said, getting up before Jasmine could. He returned a few minutes later with Faith, who was wide awake and looking around with big, curious eyes. I think the storm is too exciting for her to sleep through, he said, settling back on the couch with the baby. She's never experienced anything like this. Everything is new to her. They spent the next hour taking turns holding Faith and pointing out how the lightning made pretty patterns on the walls through the curtains, turning the scary storm into something magical for her. You're so good with her, Jasmine observed, watching Ryan make funny faces that kept Faith entertained. She makes it easy. She's such a happy baby. That's because she feels loved. Babies can sense that. Ryan looked at Jasmine in the flickering candlelight. Do you think she knows I love her? Jasmine's heart fluttered at his casual use of the word love. I think she does. Look how she smiles when she sees you. I never expected to feel this way about a baby who isn't even mine. What way? Protective. Invested in her future. Like I would do anything to make sure she's happy and safe. That's what love feels like, Jasmine said softly. Is it? I wouldn't know. I've never felt it before. Jasmine looked at him in surprise. Never? Ryan shook his head. I thought I did once or twice, but it was nothing like this. This is different. This feels real? Permanent. Like something that changes who you are. They were quiet for a while, listening to the storm and watching Faith gradually get sleepy again. When the baby finally dozed off, Ryan carried her back to her crib and returned to find Jasmine still curled up on the couch. Are you tired? He asked. Not really. The storm is too loud to sleep through anyway. Ryan sat back down beside her, closer this time. Jasmine, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever think about the future? Not just getting back on your feet, but really think about what you want your life to look like. Sometimes. But it's hard to plan when you're still figuring out how to survive day by day. But if you could have anything, what would it be? Jasmine considered the question seriously. I want Faith to grow up feeling secure and loved. I want to finish nursing school and have a career that means something. I want us to have a home that feels permanent and safe. What about for yourself? Not just as Faith's mother, but as Jasmine. I want to feel like I matter to someone. Like my life has purpose beyond just surviving. She looked at him. What about you? I used to think I wanted to build the biggest, most successful company possible. But lately I've been thinking that maybe success isn't about how much money you make or how many people know your name. What is it about then? Maybe it's about the people you love and who love you back. Maybe it's about making a difference in someone's life. Another crash of thunder shook the house, and instinctively they moved closer together on the couch. I'm scared, Ryan, Jasmine admitted quietly. Of the storm? Of this? Of us? Of how I feel when I'm with you. Ryan turned to face her. How do you feel? Like I'm home. Like for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Tears started in her eyes. But what if it doesn't last? What if you get tired of us? What if this is just temporary for you? Ryan reached up and gently touched her face. Jasmine, there is nothing temporary about how I feel about you and Faith. Nothing. But we come with so many complications. I have a baby, no money, no education. You have everything that matters. You're kind and strong and beautiful and smart. You're an amazing mother. You make me want to be a better person. The storm seemed to quiet around them as they looked into each other's eyes. All the careful boundaries they had maintained for weeks dissolved in that moment. I love you, Ryan said simply. I love you too, Jasmine whispered back. When he kissed her, it felt like coming home and starting an adventure all at the same time. It was gentle and sweet and full of promise for the future they were both beginning to imagine together. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the guest house, everything felt perfectly calm and right. Jasmine woke up the next morning to sunshine streaming through the windows and the sound of birds singing. The storm had passed, leaving everything clean and bright. For a moment, she felt pure happiness as she remembered the night before Ryan's confession of love, their first kiss, the feeling of finally being exactly where she belonged. But as she got up to check on Faith, doubt began to creep in. In the clear light of morning, everything seemed more complicated. Ryan was in the kitchen making coffee when she came out with Faith. He smiled at her with such warmth and affection that her heart skipped, but she found herself pulling back emotionally. Good morning, beautiful, he said, coming over to kiss her forehead and take Faith from her arms. Morning, she replied, but her voice sounded stiff even to her own ears. Ryan noticed immediately. Are you okay? I'm fine. Just tired. But she wasn't fine. As the day went on, Jasmine found herself analyzing every interaction, every gesture, every word. Was Ryan treating her differently now? Was he being extra nice because he felt sorry for her? Was this all some kind of charity project that had gotten out of hand? When Ryan had to leave for a business meeting that afternoon, Jasmine felt relieved to have space to think. She walked around the guest house that had felt like home just yesterday, but now felt like a beautiful prison. She realized she had no idea what Ryan expected from her now. Did he think they were in a relationship? Did he expect her to be grateful for his love the same way she was grateful for his financial help? What would happen when the novelty wore off and he realized he had tied himself to a single mother with no prospects? Her phone rang while she was feeding Faith. It was her old co-worker from the grocery store calling to check on her. Girl, I've been worried about you, Lisa said. Where have you been staying? I found a temporary place, Jasmine said, not wanting to explain the whole situation. That's good. Listen, I heard they're hiring at the hospital for entry-level positions. It's not much, but it's steady work and they have good benefits. You want me to put in a word for you? Jasmine felt a spark of hope. Really? What kind of positions? Housekeeping, food service, some admin work? Nothing fancy, but it's honest work and they treat people fairly. After they hung up, Jasmine found herself thinking seriously about the job opportunity. She could work, save money, find her own apartment. She could be independent again instead of depending on Ryan's generosity. But then she looked around the beautiful guest house and thought about Ryan holding Faith, making her laugh, looking at Jasmine like she was the most precious thing in the world. Was she really ready to give that up for the sake of pride? When Ryan returned that evening, he could sense something was wrong immediately. You've been quiet all day, he observed as they sat down for dinner. Are you having second thoughts about last night? I don't know, Jasmine answered honestly. Everything feels different now. Different how? More complicated. Before last night I knew where I stood. You were helping me get back on my feet and I was grateful. But now? Now what? Now I don't know if I'm your girlfriend or your charity case or something in between. Ryan looked hurt. You're not my charity case, Jasmine. You never were. But I am though. Look around. She gestured at the guest house. You pay for everything. You bought my clothes, you stocked the fridge, you paid my hospital bills. How is that not charity? Because charity is giving to strangers out of obligation. This is taking care of people I love because I want to. But what if I can't love you back the way you deserve? What if I'm too damaged, too scared, too focused on survival to be the partner you need? Ryan reached across the table and took her hand. Jasmine, I'm not asking you to be anything other than who you are. I fell in love with you, not some perfect version of you that doesn't exist. But you don't really know me. You know the grateful, desperate version of me. You don't know who I am when I'm not depending on someone else to survive. Then let me get to know that version too. Jasmine pulled her hand away. What if you don't like her? What if the independent, strong version of me doesn't need you the way this version does? Then I'll love that version too. Jasmine, I don't want you to need me. I want you to choose me. But Jasmine was already shaking her head. I can't choose you when I don't have any other options. Lisa called today about a job at the hospital. Maybe I should take it. If that's what you want to do, I support you completely. Do you? Or are you just saying that because you think it's what I want to hear? Ryan looked frustrated. I don't know how to convince you that my feelings are real. What do you want me to do? I want you to let me figure out who I am when I'm not depending on you for everything. And then what? You'll decide if I'm worth keeping around? Jasmine could hear the hurt in his voice, but she pressed on. Maybe. Or maybe I'll realize that this whole thing was just about gratitude and proximity and desperate circumstances. Is that really what you think this is? I don't know what to think anymore. They finished dinner in tense silence. After Ryan left that night, Jasmine lay in bed wondering if she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to know who she was outside of this beautiful bubble Ryan had created for her. The next morning she called Lisa back about the hospital job. 2 weeks later, Jasmine was working the early shift in the hospital cafeteria, serving breakfast to staff and visitors. The job was exactly what Lisa had promised: honest work with decent benefits and the possibility of growth within the hospital system. She had moved out of Ryan's guest house and into a small efficiency apartment across town. It wasn't nearly as nice as where she had been staying, but it was hers. She paid the rent with her own paycheck, bought groceries with her own money, and felt proud of her independence even when she was exhausted from juggling work and caring for Faith alone. Ryan had respected her decision to leave, though she could see the hurt in his eyes when she explained that she needed space to figure things out. He had offered to help with moving expenses or babysitting, but she had turned him down, determined to prove to herself that she could manage without his help. But 2 weeks of independence had taught her something she hadn't expected to learn. Being able to take care of herself didn't make her feelings for Ryan disappear. If anything, now that she wasn't dependent on him for survival, she missed him even more. She missed their morning coffee talks and evening dinners. She missed watching him make Faith laugh and seeing his face light up when the baby smiled at him. She missed feeling like they were a family, even if it had been temporary and complicated. Faith seemed to miss him too. She had been fussier since they moved, crying more often and having trouble sleeping. Sometimes Jasmine caught her looking toward the door like she was waiting for Ryan to walk through it. On Wednesday morning, Jasmine was refilling the coffee station when she saw a familiar figure in line for breakfast. Ryan was there with an older woman Jasmine didn't recognize, both of them wearing visitor badges. Her heart started racing as they approached her station. Ryan looked tired and stressed, but his face softened when he saw her. "Jasmine," he said quietly. "How are you?" "I'm fine. Good. Working." She felt awkward and formal, like they were strangers instead of people who had shared their deepest feelings just weeks ago. "This is my business partner, Sandra," Ryan said, indicating the woman beside him. "Sandra, this is Jasmine." Sandra smiled warmly. "It's so nice to meet you. Ryan has told me so much about you and your daughter." Jasmine felt confused. Why would Ryan be talking about her to his business partner? "Are you visiting someone at the hospital?" Jasmine asked. "Actually, we're here for a meeting with the administration," Sandra said. "We're discussing a partnership between our company and the hospital's nursing program." "What kind of partnership?" Ryan looked uncomfortable, like he hadn't wanted this information to come out. "We're funding a scholarship program for single mothers who want to return to school for nursing degrees. The program would provide tuition assistance, childcare support, and flexible scheduling to make it possible for women in difficult circumstances to complete their education." Jasmine stared at him. "When did you set this up?" "We've been working on it for about a month," Sandra answered. Ryan was very passionate about creating opportunities for women who have the drive and intelligence to succeed but lack the resources. "A month?" Jasmine's voice came out sharper than she intended. "You started this while I was still staying with you?" Ryan looked guilty. "Jasmine, I can explain. You created a whole scholarship program for me? You went behind my back and set up my future without asking me?" "It's not just for you," Ryan said quickly. "It's for women in similar situations. But it started with me." Jasmine felt humiliated and angry. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. You trying to control my life with your money. That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" "Because it looks like you decided what was best for me and made it happen without consulting me." Sandra looked uncomfortable with the tension between them. "Perhaps I should give you two some privacy to discuss this." After Sandra left, Ryan and Jasmine faced each other across the cafeteria counter. "You have every right to be angry," Ryan said. "But please let me explain." "I'm listening." "I didn't set this up to control you. I set it up because I believe in you. Because I know you're smart enough and strong enough to be an amazing nurse, and the only thing standing in your way is circumstances that aren't your fault. But you made decisions about my future without including me." "You're right. And I'm sorry. I was trying to create opportunities for you, not trap you." Jasmine felt tears threatening. "Do you understand why this makes everything more complicated? Now I don't know if you created this program because you love me or because you feel guilty about having so much when I have so little. I created it because watching you with faith, seeing how much you care about helping people, listening to you talk about your dreams, I realized that someone like you should have every chance to succeed. And not just you, but women like you who are struggling with similar challenges." "Someone like me?" "Someone strong and determined and caring who deserves better than what life has handed them so far." Jasmine wiped her eyes. "I need to get back to work." "Jasmine, wait. Can we talk more about this? Tonight after you get off work?" "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please. I miss you. I miss Faith. I miss us." "There is no us, Ryan. There's you trying to fix my life and me trying to live it." But as Ryan walked away, Jasmine realized she was lying to herself. She missed him too. She missed them. And maybe it was time to stop running from the possibility that someone could love her without trying to control her. That evening, she found Ryan waiting in the parking lot when she got off work. "Before you say anything," he said, "I want you to know that I'm dissolving the scholarship program." "What? Why?" "Because you're right. I was trying to control your future, even if that wasn't my intention. And that's not love. That's something else." Jasmine looked at him in surprise. "But what about other women who could benefit from it? If you think it's a good idea and you want to help me design it properly as an equal partner, not as someone I'm trying to help, then maybe we can rebuild it together. But only if you want to." "Ryan. I love you, Jasmine. Not because I want to save you or fix your life or prove what a good person I am. I love you because you make me laugh and challenge me to be better and see the world differently. I love you because of who you are, not what I can do for you." Jasmine felt her walls finally crumbling. "I love you too. I've missed you so much. Then come home. Both of you. Come home and let's figure out how to build a life together as equals." As Ryan held her in the hospital parking lot, Jasmine realized that love didn't have to mean losing her independence. Sometimes it meant finding someone who supported your strength instead of trying to fix your weaknesses. 1 year later, Jasmine walked across the stage at her nursing school graduation ceremony with Faith in her arms and Ryan cheering from the audience. The scholarship program they had redesigned together had supported 12 women through various healthcare training programs, and Jasmine had been the first to complete her degree. The program was different now, created with input from women who had actually experienced the challenges they were trying to address. It provided not just financial support but mentorship, childcare, and flexible scheduling that recognized the reality of being a single parent trying to build a career. After the ceremony, they celebrated at the guest house where Jasmine and Faith had lived for those first crucial weeks. But now it had been converted into a childcare center for the women in the scholarship program, staffed by early childhood education students who needed practical experience. "I can't believe it's been a year," Ryan said as they watched Faith, now walking and chattering constantly, play with the other children. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime and sometimes it feels like yesterday," Jasmine replied. "Do you regret any of it? The struggles, the complications, the arguments?" Jasmine considered the question seriously. "No. I needed to go through all of that to get here. I needed to know that I could take care of myself and Faith before I could really choose to be with you. And now I know that love isn't about one person saving another. It's about two people choosing to build something together." Ryan pulled a small box from his pocket. "In that case, I have something to ask you." Jasmine's heart started racing as he got down on one knee in front of Faith and all the other families at the celebration. "Jasmine, you've made me a better person and a happier man than I ever thought possible. You've shown me what real love looks like and you've given me the family I never knew I wanted. Will you marry me?" The ring was beautiful but not flashy, a simple solitaire that reflected light like a promise of bright days ahead. "Yes," Jasmine said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." As Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger, Faith toddled over and held up her arms to be picked up. Ryan scooped her up and spun her around while she giggled with delight. "Does this mean I get to be Faith's daddy officially?" he asked. "If you want to be. I've wanted to be since the day I met her." The wedding 6 months later was small and simple, held in the garden behind Ryan's house with just close friends and the families from their scholarship program. Jasmine wore her mother's wedding dress, which she had kept carefully preserved all these years, and Faith was the flower girl in a white dress that matched. During the ceremony, they lit a candle in memory of Jasmine's mother, and Ryan spoke about how he knew she would have loved Faith and been proud of the woman Jasmine had become. "She taught you to be strong," he said. "And she taught you to love deeply. Those are the gifts you're bringing to our marriage." In her vows, Jasmine talked about how Ryan had taught her that accepting love didn't mean losing independence, and that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was let someone care for you. "You didn't save me," she said. "You loved me. And that made all the difference." 2 years later, they welcomed a son, Michael, and Faith became the most devoted big sister anyone had ever seen. The family lived in Ryan's house, which they had remodeled to feel warm and welcoming instead of cold and empty. Jasmine worked as a pediatric nurse at the children's hospital, fulfilling the dream she had carried since she was young. Ryan's business continued to grow, but he had learned to balance work with family time, taking weekends off and leaving the office early for school plays and soccer games. They expanded the scholarship program into a full foundation that helped single parents pursue education and career training in healthcare, education, and technology. Jasmine served as the director, using her own experience to guide and support women facing similar challenges. On quiet evenings, when the children were asleep and they were sitting together on the couch, Ryan and Jasmine sometimes talked about that first day when she collapsed on the sidewalk. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stopped?" Jasmine asked one night. "Never," Ryan said without hesitation. "Because I know I would have stopped. Some things are just meant to be." "You really believe that?" "I believe that love finds a way. Maybe not always when we expect it or in the way we plan, but it finds a way." Faith, now 4 years old, often asked to hear the story of how Mommy and Daddy met. They would tell her a simplified version about how Mommy needed help and Daddy was kind enough to stop and care. "And then you fell in love?" Faith would ask. "And then we fell in love," they would confirm. "And now we're a family forever?" "Forever and always." As Jasmine tucked Faith into bed one night, her daughter looked up at her with serious eyes. "Mommy, I'm glad you were sad that day." "Why, sweetheart?" "Because if you weren't sad, Daddy wouldn't have found us. And I like having a daddy." Jasmine kissed her daughter's forehead. "I like him too, baby. I like him too." Looking back, Jasmine realized that the scariest moment of her life, collapsing on that sidewalk with nowhere to turn, had actually been the beginning of everything good that followed. Sometimes the lowest moments open doors to the highest joys, and sometimes accepting help from a stranger was the first step toward building a family. The little girl who had grown up without a father now had the most devoted dad in the world. The young woman who had felt forgotten by society now helped other women find their own paths to success. And the man who had thought he was too busy for love had discovered that family was the only success that really mattered. Their love story wasn't perfect or simple, but it was real and it was theirs. And every day they chose each other all over again. Dear readers, thank you so much for taking this emotional journey with Jasmine, Ryan, and little Faith. Their story reminds us that sometimes our darkest moments can lead to our brightest beginnings, and that love often arrives when we least expect it but need it most. I'd love to hear from you. What moment in their story touched you the most? Have you ever experienced a situation where a stranger's kindness changed your life? Do you think Jasmine was right to leave Ryan temporarily to find her independence, or should she have stayed and worked through her doubts together with him? Also, which character did you connect with more, Jasmine's fierce independence and determination to provide for her daughter, or Ryan's lonely journey from poverty to wealth and his discovery that money can't buy the love of a family? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights and experiences make these stories even more meaningful.